You know, suffering, it's something we all try to avoid, right? We try to fix it, we fight it, we run from it. But what is the path to peace isn't about getting rid of suffering at all, but about completely changing our relationship to it. Today, we're going to dig into a really powerful unified answer to this ancient problem, and we're going to pull from philosophers, monks, and even modern psychologists. Let's explore this paradox together. Okay, so first things first, let's get one thing straight. Experiencing suffering doesn't mean you're failing at life. Not at all. It's a fundamental part of the human condition. Think of it this way. It's not a bug in the system. It's a feature. And once we understand how it works, we can actually learn how to work with it instead of against it. So where does all this suffering even come from? Well, thinkers across centuries have all kind of pointed to the same core conflict. It's that gap, right? The gap between the world as we want it to be and the world as it actually is. Our struggle, our suffering, it lives right there, in that gap. And what's so fascinating here is how two totally different traditions land on the exact same conclusion. You've got the philosopher Schopenhauer, who saw this blind, cosmic will as the engine of everything. And in us, it shows up as just this endless cycle of wanting. You get one thing, and that satisfaction, poof, it's gone before a new desire pops up. And then, in a completely different part of the world, Buddhist teachings identified tanha, which is basically craving or attachment, as the root of all our discontent. It's two different names for the exact same relentless cycle. This brings us to a really important concept, the Buddhist idea of dukkha. Now, it's often translated as just suffering, but a better way to think of it is as this fundamental, low-grade background feeling of unsatisfactoriness. You know that feeling? That sense that things just aren't quite right? Well, that's dukkha. And it's caused by our craving for things to be permanent and predictable, in a world that is by its very nature, always changing. So this cycle of dukkha, it's fueled by what some call the three poisons, or you could think of them as three traps of the mind. First, you've got greed. That's the endless wanting we just talked about. Then there's hatred or aversion. That's us pushing away everything we don't like. But the real root of it all, the one that feeds the other two, is ignorance, a fundamental misunderstanding of reality, especially our failure to see that everything is impermanent. Our resistance to that natural flow is what keeps us stuck. Okay, so that's the diagnosis. And yeah, it might sound a little bleak, but here's the hopeful part. If the problem is universal, well, the solutions are too. So let's look at some prescriptions from across history for finding that inner freedom. And we'll start with the super practical ancient Stoics. The Stoics gave us this absolutely brilliant framework for life, the dichotomy of control. It's simple. They said just divide everything into two buckets, things you can control and things you can't. And guess what's in that first bucket? Only your own judgments, your attitudes, and your responses. That's it. So getting furious in a traffic jam? Yeah, that's a choice. The traffic is external. Your judgment that it's a total catastrophe, that's internal. And that judgment is exactly where the suffering is born. This idea of internal control, it leads us to a really profound question. One that was tested in the most extreme conditions imaginable. What is the one freedom, the only freedom that can never, ever be stripped from you no matter what happens? And the answer comes from Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and a survivor of the Holocaust. From his time in the concentration camps, he realized this one unshakable truth. Even when absolutely everything else is lost, we still have the power to choose our inner attitude. This just brilliantly shows that our ultimate resilience, our ability to find meaning in anything, lies in that internal choice. Now, let's fast forward to today. These timeless philosophies, they haven't just been sitting on a shelf gathering dust. Modern psychology has actually taken these ideas and systematized them, creating evidence-based therapies that give us practical, real-world tools to apply this ancient wisdom in our everyday lives. So take a look at this. On one side, you have ACT, which stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. It says the problem is psychological inflexibility. That's basically getting all tangled up and fighting with our own thoughts and feelings. The solution? Practice acceptance and commit to living by your values. Then you have MBSR, or mindfulness-based stress reduction. It targets our automatic reactive stress by helping us cultivate this calm, non-judgmental awareness of what's happening right now. Are you seeing the pattern here? The goal isn't to get rid of difficult feelings, but to radically change our relationship to that. And this is where it all comes together. We've looked at ancient philosophy, Eastern religion, modern science, and what's absolutely remarkable is that even with all the different languages and contexts, they're all pointing in the exact same direction. The common thread, the big secret, is a radical shift in perspective. The solution isn't to win the fight against reality, it's to stop fighting altogether.
It doesn't matter what you call it, whether it's Buddhist non-attachment, or Stoic acceptance of what you can't change, or Frankl's choice of attitude, or the acceptance that's cultivated in modern therapy. It's all about letting go of the struggle.
And this leads us to the single most transformative idea, the core takeaway from this whole explainer. It's a powerful paradox about the very nature of control and freedom. Here it is. We think freedom comes from getting more control over the world, right? Over our feelings, our lives. But what all this wisdom is telling us is that the desperate struggle for that control is the very source of our suffering. Real power, real freedom, isn't found in bending the world to our will. It's found in mastering our response to the world exactly as it is. And, this is not a pessimistic message. Far from it. Acknowledging that suffering is just an unavoidable part of life is actually incredibly hopeful. Why? Because if we can't always change our circumstances, but we can always change our response, well then our power becomes infinite, doesn't it? Our ability to choose becomes the ultimate source of meaning, of resilience, and of peace. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Forget about trying to solve all your problems at once. Just for today, what's one small thing you're resisting? What's one small act of acceptance, one tiny shift in your attitude that you could choose to make right now to find just a little more freedom in your own life?